Welcome to Sitcom Showdown, a podcast that reviews classic sitcom episodes and inducts them into our very own Hall of Fame. As usual, one of us has chosen a sitcom episode and the other guy has no idea what it's going to be. Will they already know it? Will they love it? Can they be convinced that it's worthy? Let's find out on Sitcom Showdown. Hello and welcome back to Sitcom Showdown. It's Jeff is here and I'm here with Steve.
G'day.
And it's your choice this time round, Steve.
Whoa. Well, I thought after recent events I'd go for something which, well, to my mind is a slam dunk. But we'll put it out there and see what happens.
Okay.
It's an episode of Seinfeld.
Oh, well, yes, okay, good. We're upping the American quotient.
It's an episode called The Alternate Side.
Right.
Which I think is so nondescript.
It gives no clue as to what it's
there's
about.
no clues. No clues whatsoever.
Aha.
It's episode 11 of season number 3, which is where things started getting good.
Started getting good, you say? Right, okay.
Well, I think so. They were hitting their stride.
Yeah, no, I'm intrigued by that
season
statement because I know there's going to be more on that later.
Maybe.
So I'm looking forward to that.
A quick description of Seinfeld. Seinfeld follows the adventures of 4 friends who live in New York. And I'm putting in adventures in inverted commas because it's also, or often described as a show about nothing.
Yeah.
Jerry Seinfeld is a stand-up comedian and he's the central character. You might have guessed that from the fact that it's called Seinfeld. Yeah. A lot of action happens around Jerry's apartment. That's a meeting point for the different characters. His neighbour, Kramer, who is described as a hipster doofus, he has no visible means of support, just kind of floats with the wind. There's Elaine, Jerry's former girlfriend, who has literary interests and sometimes works as an editor or a writer, that sort of thing. George Costanza is the last one of the 4, and George is actually based on Larry David, who was the co-creator and writer of a lot of Seinfeld. He's a neurotic character, full of self-loathing. He's a liar who struggles to maintain employment and relationships.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair?
Yep.
It's not too harsh?
No.
Okay. This was on the NBC network in America, and it ran for 9 seasons from 1989 to 1998. So it is getting a bit long in the tooth now.
Yeah.
Almost 20 years old 20 years since it finished.
And almost 30 years since it started. Which is a mind blower. That's a flat out mind blower.
Famous stars. All 4 lead actors became stars as a result of the show.
Oh, yeah.
Jerry Seinfeld, Jason Alexander, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and Michael Richards. I think Julia has the most post-Seinfeld success. She's been in a couple of sitcoms. The first was The New Adventures of Old Christine. That ran for 5 seasons.
Did it really?
Did you ever see that one?
I never watched an episode of it, but 5 seasons surprises me.
I haven't seen it. And then Veep, which I have seen a bit of. That's been renewed for a 7th season now.
Okay.
Which will air in 2018. And that's based on The Thick of It.
Ah, yes. So she's had, adding the 7 to the 5, 12 years of headlining other sitcoms.
Since 98.
There you go. That is success.
Definitely. Seinfeld is a very, very popular sitcom, and quotes from a number of the episodes have become catchphrases in popular culture.
Oh, yes.
But it did get off to an interestingly slow start, and it wasn't until seasons 3 and 4 that it got popular. So it was critically popular.
Yeah.
But people didn't start flocking to it until seasons 3 and 4. And I don't think we start seeing the best episodes until season 3, which is when they start developing that way of meshing the stories together.
Yeah.
So, I think it's time to go away and watch the episode, Jeff.
Yep, okay, let's do that.
Okay.
Name, please.
Seinfeld, you made a reservation for a mid-size, and she's a small. I'm kidding around, of course.
Yes. Okay, let's see here. Oh, I'm sorry, we have no mid-size available at the moment.
I don't understand. I made a reservation. Do you have my reservation?
Yes, we do. Unfortunately, we ran out of cars.
But the reservation keeps the car here. That's why you have the reservation.
I know why we have reservations.
I don't think you do. If you did, I'd have a car. See, you know how to take the reservation, you just don't know how to hold the reservation. And that's really the most important part of the reservation. The holding. Anybody can just take them.
Okay, we've been off and watched the episode of Seinfeld. The alternative side?
Alternate side.
The alternate side? Pretty close.
Did you get the reference to the name? Where did that come in?
Maybe something to do with parking cars on the alternate side of the road. It's not important ultimately, is it?
No, it's not.
Mm.
Right,
But before we get into it,
Yes.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Go on.
But what's your background to watching Seinfeld?
Yeah, well, I think I watched most of it on original transmission. And also, it seems to be one of those shows that's just forever repeated, so we'll occasionally catch it on repeat as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
Same. Yeah, it was repeated forever.
It was on all the time. It was really popular. It was the hottest show on at one point, I would think.
Oh, yeah, easily.
Yes. All right, well, let's get into a synopsis of this one, seeing as you can't tell what it is by the name. Well, we open with Jerry doing his stand-up routine, and he's talking about car alarms, which kind of tells us where we're going, Jeff. In the first scene, George, Jerry and Kramer are in Jerry's apartment, and his car's just been stolen from the street because the car shifter...
Sid
the car shifter. It's a vocation you never knew existed.
No way.
He forgot to take the keys out when he was shifting the car.
Rookie mistake.
We've all been there. So someone suggests, why don't you call the car phone? See what happens. So Jerry calls the car phone, speaks to the thief, who isn't very helpful, but it's a rather humorous conversation. And at the end of that, Kramer asks for his gloves. He asks the thief for his gloves on the phone. He says they're in the glove box. Now, Jeff, I don't know if you, like me, have ever put a pair of gloves in a glove box.
No.
No.
There's not a lot of call for gloves in Western Australia.
No, this is a whole side to life that we never get to enjoy.
No. I had a beanie on the dash this morning when it was needed.
Yeah.
But no gloves in the glove box.
No, never. Anyway, Sid the car shifter, he's a cranky older gentleman who spends 3 hours a day moving cars from one side of the street to the other to avoid fines. I think that's the story, isn't it?
Yeah.
You move it every now and then, you don't have to pay. You're going to get caught. And Sid's going on holidays for a week. And George asks him, he sees the opportunity and asks him if he can fill in for Sid. That's going to be fine. Sid doesn't care. Meanwhile, in the same scene, we've learnt that Kramer has a part as an extra in a Woody Allen movie, which is being filmed down the street. In fact, that's why Sid forgot to remove the keys from Jerry's car. He was distracted by the movie by Woody Allen. In scene 2, Jerry, whose car's been stolen, has gone to hire a car to replace it. And he's got Elaine with him. And they're waiting in line. And while they're waiting, she's telling him how she's started up a relationship with a 66-year-old gentleman.
Right.
Who's an author, Owen. And so his age is a topic that they're discussing. And eventually they get to the front of the queue, though. And Jerry's telling the lady how he made a reservation for a mid-size. Mm-hmm. And but she doesn't have any mid-size cars left. She's run out of them. And he gets a bit grumpy about this. And she goes off to speak to her supervisor. And there's a gag that Jerry's telling Elaine, she's not really speaking to her supervisor. That's just some random person who appeared in front of the door. And now they're pretending to have a conversation.
And they're gesturing wildly to make it look as if we're having an animated discussion.
Exactly, but really there's nothing going on. So the lady comes back, and Jerry's forced to hire a compact car. But when the lady asks him if he wants the insurance, he says, "Yep, you better give me the insurance because I'm going to beat the hell out of this car."
Which is a beautiful comeback after all the hassle he's just been through in that classic scene.
Yes, poor guy. The next scene is back in Jerry's apartment. Elaine has decided that she's going to break up with Owen because she doesn't enjoy spending time with him after all.
No, because Jerry planted the seed of doubt. Do you enjoy spending time with him?
Yeah, that happens at the end of the previous scene. And she says, "Yeah, I really like spending time with him." And then she goes, "Yeah, spending time with him's all right." And then you cut to this scene back in Jerry's apartment. She's like, "I just don't like spending time with him." Of course, this is only a few hours later in real time. She's so fickle. Anyway, George comes in and he's absolutely freaking out because this car moving gig isn't as easy as it sounds.
No, and meanwhile, while they're having that conversation just previous, you can hear the chaos outside on the streets in the background with all the honking of the horns and everything else. So it's a subtle bit of nice work by the audio pods.
Yeah, well pointed out, Jeff. So he's losing his mind, and Kramer comes in and he's done his thing as an extra in this movie, and he's gotten a line in the movie.
Oh.
He impressed them so much. So we got George on one hand. He's completely indignant that Kramer has lucked into this role, this new career, as he puts it. And who wouldn't be indignant? Anyway, Kramer's line in this movie is going to be, "These pretzels are making me thirsty." So they kind of workshop this a bit. Each one's giving their interpretation and their opinion on it, which is another classic scene.
Oh yeah, it's on my list.
That's one of the quotables. And Elaine leaves to break up with Owen. She's meeting him at a restaurant nearby. Anyway, a little bit of time goes past. She comes back to Jerry's apartment with a knock on the door, an urgent knock. She's got Owen with her, and he's had a stroke.
But we don't know that at the time.
Well, we don't know what's going on, so
dun, dun, dun.
They just lay him, and he's unconscious at this point, laying on Jerry's couch. And then there's this whole thing about whether you're supposed to raise the head to get blood to the feet, or is it raise the feet to get blood to the head? So they run through this whole bunch of completely useless first aid ideas. And the worst of those is he might be a diabetic, and so they decide they're going to put a cookie in his mouth.
And Kramer's working the dude's jaw and trying to get it all crunched up, but can't make him swallow. And then they debate the merits of, can you put a cookie in a blender?
Liquefy it.
Oh, wow. And meanwhile, precious seconds are ticking away here.
Yes. Now, where's the ambulance? Well, you hear the siren of the ambulance, and then this crash. And what's happened? Well, it's George. He's smashed Jerry's rental car into the ambulance.
And thus the two of the plot lines are woven together.
Yes, and the whole commotion has stopped Woody Allen's movie shooting.
And there's the third.
Around the corner. Yeah, that's it. Then we go to a new scene. Sid's back from holiday, and he's absolutely giving George a serve because he's messed up the car shifting and everyone's on the phone to him. Yeah. Really, really cheesed off. And Kramer picks up the paper. He brings in the paper, which is actually Jerry's paper, but he's been reading it in his apartment. He brings the paper in and he points out this article in the paper about Owen having had a stroke, and how it could have been, the damage could have been prevented if only the ambulance could have got there more quickly. Oh. And then the paper goes on to say that Woody Allen's considering quitting New York as a movie set because of all the trouble that he's had in their neighbourhood. Back at the car rental company, Jerry and Elaine are back there again, and now they're having a conversation about Elaine exiting the relationship with Owen because he can't fend for himself and she's having to look after him. So they're talking through the possibilities or the protocols for how you go about doing this very delicate
It's a classic ethical dilemma.
Yes. And Jerry discovers when he gets to the queue again that his insurance doesn't cover the situation because George was driving. Much to his astound. He's astounded, isn't he?
Oh, he is. He can't believe it.
This is going to cost him $2,600 to get fixed. And
that's more than Sid earns in a month, you know.
Yeah, it's gobsmacking. Anyway, then Elaine is feeding Owen, and there's this really terribly awkward one-way conversation where she's breaking up with him, and she starts telling him how it's an absolute bitch to get here. I've got to take 2 whole subways.
I think she softened him up quite well before delivering that one.
Yeah, she definitely said how much she enjoys his looking after him and all this sort of stuff.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's all good. But now I mention it, I'm just not sure I'm ready to commit to this kind of thing.
And I like to go for runs in the park and long bicycle rides and playing tennis and skiing and all these things that he obviously can't do.
Yeah, and which he would never do.
Yeah, very true.
What happens next? Well, they're in the diner. I don't think we mentioned the diner before, but this is a place where they often have conversations. Elaine says that she's bumped into Owen and he's feeling a lot better. And he told her that he was only using Elaine for sex. Interesting.
Yep.
And Kramer enters. He's been fired from the movie because he slammed a beer glass down in the scene. This was the day they were finally recording his scene. He slammed the beer glass down and some glass shattered and hit Woody Allen in the eye.
Yeah.
He got sent off. And he's so upset he thumps his gloves down on the table. Jerry takes a look at Kramer's gloves, realises that these gloves must have been dropped off by the car thief to Kramer at the building.
Who's nice enough to return these gloves, but not nice enough to return Jerry's car.
Exactly. Well, one thing's it's Kramer, so things just kind of fall into his lap. Whereas for other people, like Jerry and even more so of George, life just
kicks them in the teeth.
It's completely bad luck. Yes. And so that's it. Jerry's had a gutful. And there's a bit more stand-up to take us out, and that's it.
Yeah. 21 minutes and 50 seconds worth of... Well, we'll go into what it's worth of, won't we? But yeah, it's tight as.
Tight as
we like to say.
Yeah, definitely. I'll run through some points and you jump in.
Yep, let's do that.
Whenever you feel like doing that. We've got 2 iconic, very good, quotable scenes. Which ones are they?
I can tell you which ones they are. It's very obviously the take the reservation, hold the reservation scene and the pretzels are making me thirsty. I was going to say scene, but it's not a scene because it carries on and it's not a line, but it is a line. Yeah, so the pretzels thing. And, you know, they are 2 absolute standout ones. I mean, if you're talking about Seinfeld, there's probably, I don't know, let's be ambitious and say 100 that you could rattle off. But that's 2 of them. And straight away you go, that's this episode. So, yeah, classic stuff.
Yep. I like the idea of a stand-up comedian waiting in line, then finally getting to the end of the line and finding out that the thing he wants is not there. So he just takes his... You know what stand-up comedians are like. They're good at being witty and sarcastic and everything, so he just takes it out on this poor lady.
Poor lady? Oh, okay, yes, fair enough. She didn't not hold it personally, I suppose, but she deserved everything she got.
Yeah, well, yeah, I can see that as well.
Yeah.
But then at the
end...
She
does this to people every single day. But let's not go there.
No. But at the end, of course, he says, yeah, give me the insurance because I'm going to beat the hell out of this car, and then, of course, he reappears later to...
And he doesn't care. He's not fussed. Yeah. But it's a brilliant line to the end of a brilliant scene.
Yeah, indeed. So which of the pretzels are making me thirsty interpretations do you like the best?
Well, it's difficult to say.
Rank your pretzels.
Jerry's would be at the bottom.
Right.
I didn't buy it.
No?
Nah. George's one was too over the top, like the world was ending. So, you know, Kramer's got to be in there somewhere. And Elaine was good. It was very naturalistic.
I like George's one.
Yeah? Because he put so much into it.
Yeah, well, all the frustration and the stress of his
car parking.
New job, which involves shifting cars for 3 hours a day. He just takes it out in that line. So, yeah, I really love that. We talked a bit about the writing. It's very good. Everything starts with the Woody Allen movie. It all starts with Woody Allen.
Yeah.
And multiple storylines spin out of that and weave in and out of each other. So we've got Jerry's car being stolen because Sid was distracted by the Woody Allen movie.
Mm-hmm.
Then Sid goes on holiday and George gets the car shifting gig. George mucks up the car shifting, smashes Jerry's rental car, holds up Owen's ambulance, holds up the movie which Kramer is in, and Sid's nephew also isn't going to get his foot fixed because of George's stuff up. So all of that comes out of that.
Everyone suffers because of George.
Yeah.
Not intentionally, I should add.
Yeah. The other thing I really liked was the scene where Jerry and Elaine are queuing up for the car.
Mm-hmm.
First time for the rental car.
Yeah.
And even the second time. You could have had a scene where Jerry's at the front of the line and you go through all the stuff with the lady, but instead of that you've got Jerry and Elaine, and as they're making their way to the line, they're having dialogue about this relationship with Owen, and they're setting up that whole thing, and then even while the lady is going off, like in the middle of the conversation he's having with the car rental lady, there's dialogue going backwards and forwards about Elaine and Owen, and they do that the second time around as well. So it's like they're packing it in. It's
superbly economical.
Yeah.
It's flawlessly economical.
Yeah, I'd say that. So yes, I thought it was genius level writing. And the acting's pretty good. We've got Kramer's physicality.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much of this stuff they scripted. In fact, I think that Michael Richards just adds these expressions and everything as he's going. But, I know the way he comes in, the way he lounges around, leaning up against things, and he plays with his hair and teases it up and all this sort of stuff. As he's talking, it's just so funny. You got George, he's completely neurotic and explosive.
Yeah.
Elaine, I thought about the scene where she brings the guy in, 66-year-old guy,
right?
who she's trying to break up with,
mm-hmm.
and he's had a stroke, and they put him on Jerry's couch. Like her character is in this position where she wants to break up with this person.
Yeah.
But at the same time, before she got to do that, he's having this terrible medical episode. So she's also responsible for looking after him, and oh my goodness, it's just a complete nightmare, but I think she pulls it off brilliantly.
Yeah, I'd agree with all of that.
And poor Jerry, he has his car stolen, he loses his rental reservation.
Yeah.
There's someone almost die on his couch. And then the car thief goes to the trouble of bringing a pair of gloves back.
But Jerry's so chilled about everything. Like, he's just talking to the guy on the phone, this guy who stole his car, and he's, oh, yeah, well, whatever. Obviously resigned to the fact that that's going to happen. Then some guy has a stroke on his couch, and he's just standing there talking about stuff, and he's so relaxed about that because, when they're waiting for the ambulance guys to get there, they're both just leaning over him, talking about his eyebrows. And then George, George's life is just turning to even crappier levels of crap. And Jerry's just shrugging his shoulders and saying,
Oh, so you think he's pretty chilled out? I think there's one bit where they've been waiting 35 minutes for the ambulance, and he's on his phone, and he's like, "Oh, where are they?" And that's when they come in. And
it's brilliant when Elaine's in his ear while Jerry's on the phone to the ambulance dispatcher, and she's saying, "Tell him to hurry up," and he just pauses and looks at her and says, "It's an ambulance." There's just little tiny additions like that make it great.
Yep. Well, I'm almost finished. Before we get off acting, kudos to the actor who played Owen for having to lie on this couch.
Yeah.
And listen to them talk about him and then stick a cookie in his mouth and
not crack up.
And then in the scene where Elaine is breaking up with him, he's being fed
spoon-fed
beans or something like that, and then he has to react to her. I mean, he can understand what she's saying about, I want to go running in the park and do all this stuff, and it was a good job. The last thing I wanted to say was these characters are just terrible.
Oh, yeah.
We got the scene with Owen on the couch, which you just mentioned, where, instead of giving him first aid...
Well, they didn't have smartphones to look things up on.
Then poor Owen, he's lying there on the couch, and they're discussing his eyebrows and how they need a trim.
I could sympathise with that. I was thinking that to myself the other day. I'm starting to get old man eyebrows. They're out of control. But, yeah.
Kramer's not fussed at all about Jerry's car. He just wants his gloves back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think, because he calls for the phone, and you think, Kramer's going to take charge of this situation and make it all better.
Yeah. Come on, bring Jerry's car back.
Yeah, but no. Dude, there's some gloves.
There's a pair of gloves in the glove box. And lastly, Elaine and her relationship with Owen. Like, the depth of this relationship is just wafer thin.
Well, it is.
It's just, pathetic.
Yeah, because she's just a literary groupie, and he's obviously just using her for, young Totty.
Yes. Anyway, that's all. We've got to the end of my notes. What have you got to say about it?
It's just little additional things, I suppose, if I write out all the things you've already covered. So we've got a lot of notes in common. But I like the way Seinfeld opens with a gag, because they're not trying to set anything up. It's just, here's just a gag from Jerry doing some stand-up, and it's sort of, it softens you up, and you don't have to commit to anything, and you're just there, and it's a good thing that they do. And if it's slightly related to what's going on, all the better. Kramer. Oh, can I go on a bit of a tangent here?
Go on.
Okay, so did you ever watch Mad About You?
Only a few episodes.
Right, but would you say it's a spin-off of Seinfeld or not really? I mean, the two universes, they're both in the same universe, these shows.
Are they?
Yeah.
What's the centre of that Venn diagram?
Paul Reiser, and I'm very vague on this, but Paul Reiser is part of the Seinfeld universe. And so I wouldn't call it a direct spin-off, but someone who knows more than me will set us straight on this. But they had in Mad About You like a flashback episode as to how Kramer got his apartment.
Right.
And that used to be Paul Reiser's apartment. And he kept it when he got married to Helen Hunt.
Yeah.
And so he always kept this apartment. And then she finds out about the apartment and says, what do you need it for? Well, you haven't gotten rid of it. And there's some whole hoo-ha about that. But the upshot of all this is that he just gives Kramer this New York apartment.
What?
And that's how Kramer manages to have an apartment. He obviously doesn't have to pay rent on it or whatever.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
And again, I could be wrong about that. So please, if there's anyone out there who can set us straight, you can send us our first bit of listener correspondence. So they're in the middle of, Sid's there, and they're in the middle of this very tense situation, and there's a lot of plot revelations going on, and they stop all that to have a discussion about this Wednesday versus next Wednesday.
Yeah.
The whole concept of which one's this Wednesday.
I can relate
and
to that as well.
next Wednesday. Here's one for you. I hope we're not taking up too much time. Is Michael Richards the American Tom Baker? Because they're unique and they're a commanding presence on screen. They're not conventionally handsome, but the camera loves them, and they dominate all they survey, and they're very memorable. And they're both very tall, and they both sort of got curly hair.
Yeah, I can see it.
Is Michael Richards the American Tom Baker? Answers on the back of a postcard to sitcomshowdown@gmail.com. But either way, yeah, you can't fault this stuff. This is great.
Oh, okay. So that's going in.
Oh, yes, it's definitely going in.
All right.
And we come to an end of another episode of Sitcom Showdown. Do you have anything else to add?
No, nothing.
No? Okay. Well, let's
We're done.
zoom off, do some research, and pick some more shows and come back for more Sitcom Showdown at a later time.
Let's do that.
All right, thanks, Steve.
See you, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Join us next time on Sitcom Showdown when we'll be putting another 5-star episode under the microscope. And in the meantime, you can contact us with feedback on Facebook, Twitter @Sitcom Showdown, or by email sitcomshowdown@gmail.com.